Da 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 circus, da 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 Afro circus, Afro circus, Afro circus, Afro circus, Afro circus. Circus, Afro circus, Afro. Oh, but I was still doing that? No, sorry. Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. This is the third and most likely final installment in the Madagascar series, and it stars, as always, Ben Stiller, David Schwimmer, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Chris Rock as their respective characters. And to my surprise, I looked up the rest of the cast for like the new incoming characters, and Bryan Cranston's in this, Jessica Chastain. There's a lot of good voice work in this movie. Ugh, okay. Let's dive into this. So if you've been keeping up with the past two movies, the gang is still trapped in Africa, and they're trying to find their way back to New York. This is the motivation for the past three movies, for them to get back to New York. So they decide to follow the Penguins, who at that time are in Monte Carlo, to try to find their way back to New York. And of course they get into trouble, and they stumble upon this circus train where all new characters are. And they become involved with this circus crew. And Alex, the lion, played by Ben Stiller, believes that if he can get the circus to be very successful, he can get the money and the finances to get him and the gang back to New York, to the Central Park Zoo where they belong. Now, I don't think these Madagascar films are the greatest animated films out there, but they're not the worst. And while a lot of other animated franchises have gone up and down the slopes, it seems as if this franchise has stayed pretty consistent. And now we have what seems to be the conclusion for this franchise. So how did it turn out? It has its problems, but it was pretty damn fun. I'm going to start with the bad first, just to get out of the way. The pacing was a little off. There were points where it was moving at an extremely rapid, fast rate, and there were points where it was moving really slow, and it just didn't feel natural. I thought the first act of this movie flew. It flew faster than Roadrunner on the Run from Wile E. Coyote. It was intense. Like, if you blink for a second, you're missing something on the screen. You can't talk about Madagascar without talking about the Penguins. The Penguins are practically the most iconic side supporting characters in the franchise. I feel like they were very underused in this movie. Obviously they're there, but I feel like they weren't used to their potential. These movies are also known for their abundance of music, and obviously the most famous one is I Like to Move It, Move It. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. This isn't really a spoiler, but there's a Katy Perry song in there. And I'm not saying it's a bad, like a terrible thing. In context, it works, but I just felt it was like unnecessary. But you know what? This is a kids' family film, and I tend to give movies like this the benefit of the doubt because they're supposed to be fun. I mean, you have your more intelligent kids' movies at points too, but this franchise was never about being intelligent. This was about just straight up fun. And for what it does, getting into the good and pros about this film, this movie is very colorful and vibrant, and I honestly always dug the animation style for these movies so much. Even though this movie is full of imagination visually, I feel like at some points too much is being thrown at you. It's almost like when you were a kid and you got all these treats for Halloween, you had that whole bag of candy and you just eat the whole damn thing. The series is also known for its very witty and snappy dialogue, just pulling through, jabbing, just really quick talk. And kids are going to miss a lot of the dialogue because of it. But this is where the adult fun comes in, because adults, again, there's a lot of good jokes in there with this witty, snappy dialogue, and you're going to like it a lot. For example, there's a lot of jabs at New Yorkers in New York City, and being from New York, those jokes made me chuckle really hard. There are romances that are spewing in this movie, but they're ultimately glossed over, so it almost makes no sense that they're there in the first place. There is one romance, though, that goes on in the movie that's very apparent. It takes place between Sacha Baron Cohen's Lemur character and this circus bear. And that's all I'm going to say. It's just so out there and so weird and disturbing in a really funny way. Also, the villain of the movie, Dubois, who first of all really reminded me very much of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. And I'm pretty damn sure that that character, that villain, the Disney villain, was an influence for this one. She was the definition of crazy, ridiculous, over the top, which, by the way, this movie is over the top. When I said that this film is basically the ending of the franchise, I really think it is. It wasn't emotional or really bittersweet, but it was a nice ending for the Madagascar franchise, and I think this is where it should stop. But in my opinion, it wasn't that satisfying of an ending because I was left wanting more. Kind of like how I feel when I leave Applebee's. Ultimately, Madagascar 3 is a really fun movie for the whole family to go see. Just, it's kind of forgettable. And for now, this movie will have to do because Brave, the newest Pixar movie, comes out the week after, or 2 weeks from then, I think. I'm not sure. But depending on how good Brave is, because that looks like the more intelligent animated film of the year, but if you're looking for a fun time to bring your kids to, they're going to love Madagascar 3. I'm going to give Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, 3 out of 5 stars. That's a pretty fair grade in my opinion. I'm John from MaffmanJones Reviews. See you next time.